The Pope has broken a number of traditions in the first few days of his pontificate. First of all, travelling outside Rome yesterday, and secondly, this morning, using the balcony of St. Peter's to deliver the morning prayer, not the Angelus today, because it's during the period of Easter, so the Regina Caeli, and he talked about peace. We witnessed this moment of extraordinary clarity from the heart of the Catholic Church, from the loggia of blessings high above the cobblestones of St. Peter's Square. Pope Leo XIV stood not as a mere ecclesiastical figurehead, but as a shepherd with fire in his bones. He didn't equivocate. He didn't defer. He stood where popes have stood for centuries, but did something many of them have not. He broke with the familiar. He used that sacred balcony not to dispense pleasantries, but to thunder a moral appeal that echoed off the colonnades of history. Never again war. And he said, I'm going to read it, if I may. He said, "Brothers and sisters, I greet you with joy on this Sunday of the Good Shepherd, and I begin my humble service as Bishop of Rome. From this most visible of pulpits, I wish to speak to the conscience of the world. I too address the powerful of the earth, repeating an urgent plea as old as humanity and as current as the wounds of today: no more war, never again war. I carry in my heart the suffering of the beloved people of Ukraine, who have endured so much for so long. I call not merely for ceasefires, but for an authentic, just and lasting peace, one born not from military victory, but from the recognition of each other's humanity. I also grieve deeply for the people of Gaza, for the hostages, and for the exhausted civilians trapped beneath the weight of history and horror. I call for an immediate ceasefire, for humanitarian aid to flow freely, and for all hostages to be returned. And I give thanks for the fragile ceasefire between India and Pakistan. I pray, we must all pray, that it becomes a foundation for a lasting peace between neighbours who deserve more than mutual fear. And let me say this plainly, there are so many other conflicts, too many, too long ignored. We live in the shadow of what my predecessor, Pope Francis, called a piecemeal World War III. Let us not allow these pieces to become whole. Let us not allow silence to be complicity. May the God of peace soften hearts, disarm minds, and awaken a spirit of reconciliation in every land. May we never grow indifferent to suffering. May we never accept war as normal. And may we, from the greatest powers to the smallest villages, become peacemakers, bridge builders, and disciples of mercy." This was not the papal bedroom window. This was the central loggia of St. Peter's Basilica, a space reserved for declarations that shape centuries. From there, Pope Leo signalled not just his spiritual programme, but his political presence. He invoked his predecessors, the fire of Francis, the intellect of Benedict, the outreach of John Paul II, and yet spoke with a plain-spoken moral authority that was entirely his own. He made no mention of his American origins. He didn't, like some wished, speak first to the nation of his birth. Instead, he addressed the world: Gaza, Ukraine, Kashmir. His concern was not national, but universal, not sentimental, but sacramental. His voice cracked slightly as he mentioned the children taken from Ukraine, and his brow furrowed as he paused over Gaza. But this was not theatre. This was a liturgy of lament turned into a manifesto for peace. Where previous popes have used the loggia almost exclusively for urbi et orbi, to the city and the world, Leo XIV had done something radical. He's repurposed it for moral broadcast, and the contrast is poignant. His predecessor, Pope Francis, famously addressed the world during lockdown from a rain-drenched and empty St. Peter's Square, a lone figure of fragile hope. Leo, by contrast, speaks to a teeming crowd, yet he speaks with the same urgency, the same clarity, and perhaps even more strategic boldness. Gone is the traditional velvet mozzetta. Gone, too, is the stiff ceremonialism. In its place, a clean white Pellegrina, a silver cross, not unlike Francis's, but I believe it contains relics of South American saints, and a speech that makes even seasoned diplomats shift in their seats. Leo was not merely praying for peace, he's calling out war. And in doing so, he places the church once again at the crossroads of politics and prophecy. He doesn't name names, but nor does he hide behind euphemism. His appeal is deliberately timed, just days after renewed hostilities, during ceasefire negotiations, and in the middle of political instability in both East and West, he speaks with moral urgency that recalls Pope John the 23rd's Pacem in Terris, and with rhetorical precision that echoes Leo XIII's Rerum Novarum. This is not simply a new papacy, this is a recalibration of what it means to be a pope in the age of global fracture and global media. One hopes, and one prays, that Pope Leo XIV will continue to use the balcony of St. Peter's for such messages, for it is there that the Bishop of Rome speaks not just as a theologian, but as a sentinel. From that height, with all the gravitas of centuries and the vulnerability of a man who served in both Chicago and Peru, he offers the world a challenge it cannot ignore. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. And now the world needs to decide. Will they listen to the shepherd's cry on the Sunday of the Good Shepherd, or will it silence him as it silenced so many prophets before?